Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to our Tuesday meeting of the BOCC. Hopefully everybody had a good holiday. Nobody approached me today, so we'll just go with the pledge. If you want to rise, we'll start with pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. I entertain a review or motion on the minutes.
Mr. Chair, move to approve the minutes of February 10th through the 12th.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes. Any comments, questions, corrections? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Guess I better turn my mic on.
Before I get into consent agenda, we have a proclamation today. I'll read this. This is, if you've been attending some of these, this is something a little new for us. Commission is taking a stance. We'll ask them to send in what the proclamation is, and we'll approve it at a workshop meeting, and then bring it here if we so desire to approve it, instead of just in the past, it's been pretty much a flat no. So this one is for emergency support shelter for the month of February, and I'll read through this, and we have two ladies joined us, and I'll give them a chance to talk a minute about it. In the matter of declaring February 2025 as Teen Dating Awareness Month in Cowlitz County, whereas teen dating violence is a serious public health issue affecting young people across the United States, and whereas teen dating violence can take many forms, including physical, emotional, sexual, and verbal abuse, and whereas one in 3 adolescents in the United States experience some form of physical, sexual, or emotional abuse from a dating partner, and whereas early intervention and prevention efforts are crucial to breaking the cycle of teen dating violence, and whereas raising awareness about teen dating violence and providing support to victims is essential to creating a safe and healthy environment for all young people. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that Cowlitz County designates the month of February as Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month in our county. Be it further proclaimed that we encourage all citizens to learn more about teen dating violence and support efforts to prevent and address this critical issue. Be it further proclaimed that we urge all young people to seek help if they are experiencing dating violence, to know that they are not alone. Be it further proclaimed that we encourage all schools and community organizations within our county to actively participate in Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month by organizing educational workshops, awareness campaigns, and support groups for young people. We urge them to utilize this opportunity to educate students and community members about healthy relationships, the signs of teen dating violence, and available resources for support and assistance. Be it further proclaimed that we recognize the vital role of local resources in supporting the victims of teen dating violence. We specifically acknowledge Emergency Support Shelter as a valuable resource within our community, offering support services, prevention, and education to our community. We encourage anyone affected by teen dating violence to reach out to Emergency Support Shelter or other local support organizations for assistance. Issued this 18th day of February 2025, Board of Cowlitz County Commissioners. And I'll give you a chance to either, is it just you coming up and right up here? And there should be a button to make sure the green light's on, and then it's all yours. And what we'll Some of this is written like it's a city, so I'll have them change this and then we'll have it signed and get it over to you, okay?
Okay, thank you. Good morning. I am an advocate from the Emergency Support Shelter. The mission of the Emergency Support Shelter is to end sexual and domestic violence while providing education, safety, and support to our community. The Emergency Support Shelter was established in 1978 as Cowlitz County's first domestic violence assistance program. It has since expanded into several programs. We offer emergency shelter for survivors of domestic violence and their children, free and confidential domestic violence advocacy, legal advocacy, and support for victims of crime and sexual assault. February is National Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. Here's what we know. Nearly 1.5 million high school students experience physical abuse from a dating partner in a single year. About 1 in 9 female and 1 in 36 male high school students report having experienced sexual dating violence in the last year. Over 70% of women and over 60% of men first experience intimate partner violence under the age of 25. 1 in 4 women first experienced intimate partner violence prior to the age of 18, and 49% experienced rape as a minor. Up to 19% of teens experience sexual or physical dating violence. About half face stalking or harassment, and as many as 65% report being psychologically abused. Dating abuse is a pattern of destructive behaviors that exerts power and control over a dating partner. While we define dating violence as a pattern, that doesn't mean the first instance of abuse is not dating violence. It just recognizes that dating violence usually involves a series of abusive behaviors over a course of time. Teen dating violence is more common than people think. 1 in 3 teens in the U.S. will experience physical, sexual, or emotional abuse by someone they are in a relationship with before they become adults. Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month aims to educate young people on the prevalence of dating violence and how they can prevent it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for attending. I'm glad we were able to do that.
We
for you,
appreciate
so
it.
Thank you. And I know you're later on the agenda because we also support the emergency support shelter. Okay. Okay, we'll get into consent agenda. Call for bids. We have a call for bids for a steel structural plate arch for the Garlic Road Delmarva Creek Fish Patches project. We're ordering this a little sooner than normal because of the lag times of getting these in. And when you do, anytime we do a project that involves a fish bearing stream, there's a limited window that you can actually work in that stream. So we're getting this bid out a little bit early so we can make sure there's time that it gets in during the time we can actually work. Agreements, contracts, bid awards, a completion project, the pile contractors for the Hazeldale slide repair project. Agreement with Mark. I'll butcher this, Scheibmer Meyer to serve as Cowlitz County hearing examiner. The cost not to exceed $20,000 per year. Last year, we actually went through an RFP. And he was the one that came out, so this is the second year of that. Contract extension to Roche Inc. for the Tower Road Water Main and Juanita Way Booster Pump Station project. They were winners of the bid. We had quite a few companies bidding on this project. Total amount is $1,549,631.76. Resolution to approve surety bond for the calendar year of 2024. Board correspondence, affidavit of posting resume for the month of January. I've explained the resume stuff before. When you post, what we're saying is all the activity that it happened through the Board of Commissioners in public meetings through the month of January. We're saying, we're guaranteeing that all that stuff has been posted for January. Nothing's left out. Letter from Federal Energy Regulatory Commission regarding order granting extension of time to complete Beaver Bay campground renovations. Another one from FERC regarding the 12th Consultant Safety Inspection Report on the Yale project. Letter dated 2/18/25 to Gregory Hannon, reappointed him to the Solid Waste Advisory Committee, representing citizens, 2-year term that'll run through the end of March 2027. Letter dated 2/18/25 to William Hoskins, appointing him to the Stormwater Advisory Committee, 2-year term that expires the end of December 2026. This is one I think we could actually use more people on. Susan, right?
Yes.
Yes. So if anybody has any interest in that, we could use more people on this committee. Letter dated 2/18/25 to Nikki Jolly, appointing her to the Yale Valley Library District Trustee, the 5-year term that expires into February 2030. And we have a series of, let's see, they're all related to the Dyke Road Reconstruction Phase 2. Under 8A through E is all construction easements for doing the work up on the Dyke Road. Yeah. Vouchers, we have vouchers this week in amount of $8,720,665.16. And that's consent agenda.
Move approval of the consent agenda.
Okay. I got a motion to approve consent agenda. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm being told, since we're new to this, under the proclamations, I should have called for a motion, even though we approved it in a workshop formally.
Okay.
Motion here, if I can get one.
Then I move approval of the proclamation.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the proclamation for the emergency support shelter. Comments, questions?
I do have a question for the young lady that came up and spoke. Is the emergency support shelter doing anything special the month of February with this proclamation that they normally wouldn't do as far as like education, that type stuff, advocacy within the community?
Tuesday went out to
We're gonna need you to,
Drag you back up to the microphone.
yeah, otherwise we'll be getting texts that can't hear.
There we go. So last week we went out to multiple different schools and we educated the teens in the middle schools in Longview, Kelso. We have events scheduled down at Woodland and Kalama this week and next week, where we're educating the middle schoolers on what teen dating violence awareness is. That's not something that we do every month of the year. We really make it a big event. And all of the advocates in our office go down and we take part in educating these teens.
So I understand that resources are limited. But can you help me understand if it's as big of a deal as you've stated, which I agree with, it's a problem. Shouldn't we be doing something throughout the year and not just keep it to 1 month as far as the education and advocacy portion of it goes?
We should, and what we try to do is educate every single day, whether it be our peer-led program that we have going on where we have a prevention specialist now that's educating our teens and what healthy relationships look like that are now peer-led that we kicked off at the beginning of this school year, and that's going fantastic. And he's teaching, well, the kids, he's taught high schoolers to teach their peers on what healthy relationships look like. And so that's something that takes place every week, twice a week. And so that is something that will continue be ongoing. As the program grows and the funding is there, I think there's bigger plans in the future on getting back into the schools and keeping this appealing to a bigger population within the schools.
Mhm. I think what you guys do is great. My youth organization through church, we've gone and painted the walls at your place and worked on your kids' playground stuff and that kind of thing. Can you help me understand, as far as this proclamation goes, why you think it's a good thing to have a proclamation and declare this the month of February for this purpose, and what you see the advantage to it is?
For me, I think that educating any of our teens and making sure that they know that teen dating violence is never okay. I don't think it's something that is very much talked about. And although it's 1 month that's dedicated to education, it's something that we do all year long. And really being able to bring the focus and highlighting that during 1 month out of the year and saying, hey, although we're doing small things throughout the year, this is the month that we actually get to show like what this is all about, and to hope that we can stop teen dating violence at least with one person, if not hundreds.
But how does this proclamation help you? If you never had it, you're still gonna focus on the month of February, you're still gonna do all those things. How does this proclamation help you?
I think that allowing the county commissioners here signing it, it just brings more awareness and it gets the word out there in a bigger fashion than what we can reach ourselves.
So when you talk about the events that you put on at the schools, is it, how much more is it than just reciting the statistics that you recited to us?
We actually don't recite the statistics to the kids. We interact with them. We have a tabling event. They take a pledge that they read, they sign, they participate in an activity so they fully understand what kind of a pledge that they are taking. We come here with our statistics to get the word out there on how much of an impact this is having on our kids. But when we go into the schools, we make it appropriate for them where they understand what teen dating violence is.
What kind of examples or information do you put in front of them so they understand what that is?
We give them opportunities to play games or like spin the wheel or have note cards where they can where we ask them questions like, what is stalking? Do you know what that is? Or bullying on social media. We are trying to get them to understand, what gaslighting is. And so being able to ask them the questions, have them tell us what their definition is, and then be able to educate on what the appropriate definition is something that we do.
So this is all just a verbal communication back and forth.
Mhm.
There's no slideshow or video demonstration or showing them anything off of the internet.
No, sir.
Okay.
Okay. Other questions? It looks like there is.
In the public school environment, are you able to engage faith-based foundation of the Lord created us not to be violated as a beautiful body or anything, or not?
No.
For the king?
Outside of the schools, do you?
I can't answer that. I don't know the answer to it.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you once again.
This is one that I've got a lot of disjointed thoughts on, and it kind of comes back to what's the real role of government. And what we're talking about, at least in my mind, is a cultural, social, personal behavior problem. And to me, that starts at the home. And Steve, you mentioned churches. To me, that's the place where these things need to be addressed. And we have so many proclamations on this month and that month and everything else that I totally ignore them all because there's so many of them. So, yeah, I guess from an awareness point of view, but it seems to me that the government or some government agency, which is basically what emergency support shelter is because of the funding, that seems to me, that's the last resort just ahead of law enforcement action. So somehow it's a family, it's a church, faith-based, some kind of, that's to me where the nub of this whole thing is. So that's just kind of my thoughts. Like I say, I'm kind of disjointed on the whole thing, and I'm kind of get lost in all these, proclamations for this and that and everything else.
Okay. Any other? Seeing none, call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We'll head into motion items. Public Works, I see a couple of them here.
Good morning, Susan Eugenius, County Engineer. The first item we have on the agenda today is the bid award to Tapney Incorporated for the Tudo Wastewater Treatment Plant Improvement Project. The total award amount is $1,492,328.90. We opened these bids on February 5th. We received a total of 8 bidders. The low bid is approximately $92,000 below the engineer's estimate, and the next 2 bidders were clumped very closely together. We have reviewed all their documentation and found them the lowest responsible bidder for this project.
Okay. Entertain a motion if you so desire.
I move approval of item number 9 on the motion agenda.
Okay, we have a motion to approve Tapany for the bid. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Item 10.
Item 10 is amendment number 2 to the professional services agreement with Gibbs and Olson to add construction inspection and engineering services for the Tudo wastewater treatment plant improvements. The total cost of their contract would not exceed $479,000. This includes the new services and the design phase. We set our construction projects up in this manner quite frequently, where we have the design phase and we amend their contract to add what construction services we need. In this case, we've requested extensive daily inspections, which is not our norm, and that is due to the fact that our inspection group is not an expert on mechanical equipment. Plus, we have quite a few large public works projects this summer, so we've requested Gibbs and Olson provide a daily inspection of this project in addition to their normal submittal reviews.
I move approval of number 10, amendment number 2 to the professional services agreement with Gibbs and Olson.
Okay. We have a motion to approve the extension for Gibbs and Olson. This is basically, we're asking them to do services that we don't feel we have the level of expertise to make sure it's done.
Correctly, yes.
Any questions, comments on this one?
And Susan, for the public's sake, this is something that we typically do. It's just that in this circumstance, the amount of money is a little bit larger than normal.
Yes, we typically have them review submittals for us, but the daily inspection is done by county staff. So it's just a larger scope than normal.
Okay. Seeing that. Call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
Gina, HHS.
Hey, good morning. Gina James, Health and Human Services. We have a few items on the agenda this morning. Item 11 is agreement with Housing Opportunities of Southwest Washington, or some folks know it better as Longview Housing Authority. This contract is to provide case management for residents who are staying at the Phoenix House. It's often residents with their children. The Phoenix House is a program that is for individuals who have completed inpatient substance use treatment program and are now, they've completed that program and they're moving back into the community. And so the Phoenix House is a program where they can return to the community away from their, prior environments to get back on their feet. So the case management services through this contract work with the individuals to develop a self-sufficiency plan and then work on the goals in that plan so they can kind of get reestablished in the community and eventually move out and be independent on their own. So this contract's not to exceed $133,250. This is for a 1-year period. And primarily funded with our grant from Washington State Department of Commerce.
This is be the second year that they've handled Phoenix.
Correct.
I'm trying to remember who did it for years before and,
It was Family Health Center.
okay,
Mhm.
and then Oswald took this over last year.
Yes.
In this second year, then I think we're trying to get them in on Wednesday because when they came in for this, they looked at making some changes. And to my recollection, they wanted to move people through the system faster. So I think they're going to give us an update on.
Yeah, we're looking, she just sent me a couple dates in March. So we're looking at a work session in March and they can come in and share a little bit more about the program and what it's looking like for them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Just a little question on the services. Is there some state protocol that they have to meet in doing this under the professional services and tracking results, et cetera, so that you, at least representing us, know that we're getting, that it's for the best for the people and good for the county?
Yeah, so they look at the state doesn't look at this. At the Phoenix House, they're always looking at their self-sufficiency plan and if they're making progress, if individuals are making progress on those plans, if are able to make sure they stay connected to their treatment, look at employment or schooling, things like that they're always working towards those pieces. This particular program falls under what's called a services only project. So the state doesn't look at it very closely because it's considered services only. It's not paying for a housing unit, which is where the state really kind of drills in on if they're paying for a housing unit. So I apologize, that's probably kind of a confusing answer. But we do look at, and we also look at they submit quarterly reports to us that kind of talk about those things in terms of the individuals who have their self-sufficiency plans done and if they're making progress on those plans. And that's certainly something when they come in March that we'll make sure they touch on.
Right. So one of the important parts would be, you mentioned children that are part of
Mm.
this. So making sure that the children are going to school and getting their things, trying to break the cycle that can go on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of reunification that happens while individuals are at the Phoenix House. So oftentimes the kids have had to be, taken away for a period of time while parent can complete their treatment programs, and now they're being reunified and getting stabilized in this program.
Gina, real quick, I know that you, with regards to budgets for, places that we give money to, you look at that budget and then you guys go back and forth on what you think is acceptable and what is not acceptable previous to them receiving this money. Do you do the same thing, and can we do the same thing with regards to, for example, the services that they offer? Knowing what the board's position is on certain things, can we say, hey, we're giving you this money, we would like to see more or less of these things offered within your program?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's part of it is, that's why we have a contract, right? Because then we can say, these are the things we're looking for, and they're committing to doing those things. That would be a great conversation to have once we get an opportunity, once new commissioners get an opportunity to learn more from them in March when they come. That would be some great dialogue to have. And if there are certain things that you'd like to see that you didn't hear were happening, then that'd be a great conversation to have. Yeah. Hey, Tim.
So I'd be curious as to how many roughly do you help with this amount of money? 133,000, right?
Yeah, so at any given time, there's about 20 adults, 20 kids staying at the project.
Well, I would have thought.
Any other questions, comments? Can you entertain a motion?
I move approval of item number 11.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the agreement with Housing Opportunities of Southwest Washington in the amount of $133,250. Last chance. Okay, call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Item 12.
Okay, item 12 is a contract agreement with Emergency Support Shelter. This is specifically for shelter operations. So in their sheltering of individuals who are fleeing domestic violence. This contract is $150,000. There's $100,000 supporting basic shelter operations, and the last few years we've included a $50,000 match component. So we'll match what is donated through private donations. We will match up to $50,000 in that. This is also a one-year agreement. This one is funded with document recording fees. The reason for that, there's a percentage of our document recording fees that has to be used for 3 or 4 really specific interventions. Shelter operations is one of those, and so we use that percentage of the document recording fee towards this contract. They're also in the room if we have any questions specifically for.
Do you know what that percentage is?
It
Roughly.
is, I want to say 15%. I'd have to look at the document, the statute, to make sure that that's correct. But yes, it's a percentage of the document recording fees that are specific to housing and homeless services.
How many people do we have in that shelter at any given time? Do you know?
Yeah, sure. I know it's changed over the years.
So any given time, the shelter can house up to 8 different families currently with their children. But we're hoping to expand those services to open up a few more rooms now that post-COVID and the need has continued to increase.
What constitutes a family?
So it could be a mother or a mother and her children, either one. So we have single women who come in, or we have women who come in with their children.
Is there a maximum number of children?
We don't have a maximum number of children that can come with each family. I think the most we've had stay in the shelter at one time is 5 children with one mother.
Okay.
And correct me if I misspeak on anything, it's a shorter term stay up to 90 days. And so when we look back, so from HMIS, just looking back at a year period in 2024, it looked like over 100 individuals were served, which was close to about 61 households.
Do you know what the cost per individual is for a 90-day stay?
For about per family, for about a 90-day stay, it's about $1,500.
So it's $1,500 whether it's a single mother or a mother with 3 kids?
No, single mother. Sorry, just a single mother, just about
Per
for food.
individual.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So just so I understand, $1,500 per person?
For per mother, and then depending if they have different families or how many children come in, each family has really different needs. So when each family comes in, we're trying to assess what needs they have for clothing, for food. Are we, we providing more? Do they have some access to those in other areas? Some others come in with employment, some don't. So each family is really different, and the needs really range depending on the families that are coming in.
Okay.
So do you have a baseline to say, let's just say we're talking about clothing and food, what it costs per individual, $1,500?
I mean, I can kind of give you an estimate. And I can give you more specific numbers too. But even just to keep the lights on in the shelter as a whole for, about 4 months, we're looking even just about $3,500 just to keep the lights on in the shelter as a whole for about 3 months. So, but depending on the families, it really estimates on the needs of them coming in again and what they need and the services that we're providing them.
A couple of questions here. The terminology here, who are at risk of domestic violence. That's kind of a nebulous term that you would have someone coming in that feels at risk. Now, those that are fleeing violence would be another thing. So does law enforcement have to be engaged in some way or another that they've had a claim or whatever? Or it's basically a kind of a relationship of them sharing their situation?
Yeah, it's a great question. So law enforcement does not have to be involved. The women can come and share what they've experienced, and we work with them directly one-on-one.
Okay, so law enforcement is not necessarily engaged then.
They don't have to be. So if the clients choose that they want to involve law enforcement, we help them along the way. Sometimes they come in as a referral from law enforcement, but we do have clients that come in just on their own, so it's not a requirement for them to seek shelter.
Okay, thank you.
My question is, do we have a program for abused husbands who have kids?
Yeah, it's a great question. So our program, our domestic violence program, serves all individuals in Cowlitz County. This motion right here for this agreement is specifically for our shelter. So our shelter serves women who are fleeing intimate partner domestic violence just for the shelter. But our agency as a whole does serve men who are fleeing domestic violence with children. They just cannot stay in our shelter, but we do help them access other safe places to stay, housing resources, vouchers, safety planning, and they do get that support as well.
Okay, what is the percentage of men who have the problem?
I can get you that answer. I don't have it in front of me right now, but I can go back and grab that data
Okay,
and send it to you.
I'm just kind of curious. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions? I think 3 years ago, I think we used to give 100,000 just outright, and then we wanted to give more, but we wanted to make sure that it didn't come at the expense of donations, so we attached it to the match fund, and I think that's been, hopefully they're happy with it. I know we felt that that's been successful. We want to make sure the public was still involved also.
Yeah,
in-
yeah,
in
that was,
supporting this shelter, yeah.
yeah, that was part, I remember part of that conversation being, if there's private donations coming in up to a certain amount, the community is pretty supportive of emergency support shelter. And so then decided to match some of that. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we're matching up to 50,000.
Right.
So you guys have received 50,000 outside of what we're giving you.
Mhm.
Okay,
Mhm.
that's good.
And we're very grateful for your support. Thank you.
Hi, just a real short question. I've got a reputation of being frugal to the nth degree. I understand, and I kind of enjoy it. But for $500 a month, I think that's a little excessive. Could you tell me why 500? I could feed a whole family on $500 a month. So what is this getting that one person?
For that one individual into the shelter?
Yes, because I'm sure that Fish would donate food
Yeah.
and you have Lions. So the food issue would be a whole lot less. Clothing, I'm sure that you have donations from Goodwill and then other places, so that would be less. So basically, you're saying that you're having to pay a large amount of money to educate these ladies. And I really think that that could be shaved as well.
Yeah, that's a great question. And so we work really closely with a lot of our community partners. So we do work with agencies like Fish. We have Red Hat, who's an organization under us for clothing. But regardless, it is our job when these women come into us to make sure they have everything that they need. And that's 24/7. And so when it's really important that our shelter is always staffed. Some women come most of the time with nothing, with the clothes on their back. So the food that we have is essentials like milk, egg, cheese, things that we do buy to make sure that it's stocked. Hygiene items, clothing, undergarments, and a lot of those we do work with our community partners, but sometimes there are things that we do need to have available and accessible to them at all times. Things like, things like laundry soap, toilet paper, things like that that keep the shelter operations running. Things like hygiene products, those kinds of things that are really difficult to get from community partners. Those are important for us that we have those for the families and for the children as well. So diapers, wipes, things like that we do very grateful for support from the community. But the need that we have coming in is always evolving. And so it's important to us that we have those stocked at all times. But even when we have those, our food budget is very frugal, right? So we provide what's essential, and then we help the women try to get on, if it's EBT or connect them to other resources. But, even having things for a child's birthday, to celebrate that with them, things like that, just the bare essentials. But we do work with those community partners to make it last longer.
Oh, I appreciate your effort in doing all that. So basically what you're saying is the amount isn't necessarily 15 with all your donations and everything you get. Most of the time it's less than 15 then, correct?
Yeah, it's very difficult for me to give that exact number because give or take, but yes,
Okay.
depending on the size
Okay.
of the family, the children, the needs, and the resources the mother has coming in.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
I think another way to phrase the question for myself is what's your percentage, what's your administrative cost?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I can get the exact data for you. I just don't have it in front of me right now.
And just for purposes of this particular contract, it's 10%. This contract, we pay 10% admin costs towards the program. So
Okay.
that doesn't mean
No,
that's,
that's-
their whole program, it might look different, but for this contract, it's up to
10,
10%.
okay.
Yeah,
Up to,
up to 10%.
okay, good.
Okay.
Well, if there's no more questions, then I'm going to move approval of item number 12.
Okay, we have a motion to move approval of item number 12 to emergency support shelter. Any last questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming today. 13, 14, 15. Leave it up to my colleagues how we want to handle this, but it's all like the same type item.
Yes, items 13, 14, and 15 are contracts specifically for coordinated entry services. We have a contract with Community House on Broadway, Emergency Support Shelter, and Cowlitz Family Health Center. These are the entities we've worked with for the last several years for coordinated entry. And just really briefly, coordinated entry is a way to for individuals who are experiencing homelessness to connect, give some basic information about their housing status. And then it sort of gets them on gets their information in the system. We occasionally have housing referrals that can be drawn from coordinated entry and who's connected with coordinated entry. So we're occasionally able to connect those individuals then to a housing referral. That's the primary purpose of coordinated entry. But they also do a lot of mainstream referrals to services in the community that you're not on a wait list or anything like that, that individuals can try to connect with more readily. So like I said, we've historically worked with these agencies. We'd like to continue working with these agencies. We have adjusted some of the contract amounts a little bit here as we did an RFP process and had some discussion with the agencies. These will be primarily funded with our grant with the Department of Commerce. So we'll continue to do that and move forward. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Now, there are some programs that if these individuals do not go through coordinated entry, then they don't have access to the program, right?
That's correct.
So this is a step that must be taken for some.
To
not-
get
not
into some.
everything, But for some stuff.
Yeah. It's primarily the HEN program there's a housing component if you're eligible for HEN, and you have to go through coordinated entry in order to get a referral. There's a couple other programs too where, they call us and say, we need a referral from coordinated entry, and we send them a referral. So yes, there's certain programs that this is the only way that you can get into those programs.
And it's a reimbursement program. We're not sending Community House the money or anybody the money. It's
Right.
Reimbursement. And we're also working with, we expect CAP will be part of this too.
We're having some conversation with CAPS. They had also submitted a proposal through the RFP. So we're having some ongoing discussions with them about what that might look like.
About how many people does this help in a year, do you know?
We see anywhere from 1,000 to 1,200 people that connect with coordinated entry. We end up sort of gathering that more in-depth information with about 800 of those individuals. When we look at the actual referrals to housing, it's about 10% of that, depending on the projects. That's not a reflection of coordinated entry itself. That's because those were just the openings that the projects had. So when they get an opening, then they reach out and pull a referral from coordinated entry.
Okay.
Gina, does the coordinated entry program make it to where benefits aren't duplicated? You know what I mean? They can't go to one, go to another and get benefits from these different places. Does that program help with that?
Coordinated entry itself doesn't have any, we don't give out a benefit in coordinated entry. And so they could go to one agency, go through the coordinated entry process. They could go to another agency, and they're essentially going to get the same information they've already gotten. So there's not a direct, there's not a benefit that we're handing out in the moment. You'll get mainstream services, information on mainstream services. It's about 7 pages of resources that you can look through and connect with. So in that sense, they're going to get the same response no matter which agency they connect with, and the same information. And there's not we're not handing out like hotel vouchers or anything like that someone's getting where they could go to one and then maybe get another one from another one.
So help me understand then exactly what service is it providing if we're not handing that out, if there's no subsidy for anything?
Yeah, so they gather some basic information. It gets inputted into a database. That's essentially where we'll look in that database when a referral opens, and send information based on that. That's how we know that someone's eligible for a project, that they meet some of the program requirements so that they'll be a good referral for that project. So aside from that potential referral, they'll get information on a variety of mainstream services that they can connect to in the community, anything from, food resources, transportation, clothing, substance use, mental health. They'll get all of that resource information that they can go and try to connect to, other case management services, those types of things.
Okay.
Information on shelter. Yeah.
Is it somewhat accurate to say it's almost kind of like a screening process?
That's exactly what
Otherwise,
it
they
is.
might be walking through your door and you'd
Mhm.
screen them all?
Yep. That's exactly what it is. Because like I mentioned, the primary purpose is to be able to get some basic information so we can get good referrals to those projects. And so we collect the information that's needed to know if they're, income eligible, are they a veteran, those really specific pieces that will help us to know if they qualify for one of those projects. Yeah.
Are the organizations that coordinated entry people are sending these people to for these resources? Is coordinated entry the only way to get to those resources, or can anybody just get to those resources?
When I'm talking about mainstream services, that's just open to anyone. And so it would be, the same resources that you and I could go and connect with out in the community for the most part. The specific housing referrals are limited and very specific. So not everybody is able to go and connect with those.
Larry?
Gina, we're talking about the full population of homeless people would go through any one of these three and potentially cap when it comes on? Okay. One of the things we know about homeless population, there's a whole variety of reasons that people end up being homeless. All the way from economic to drug addicted to mental health. Those are the people that would be coming through this.
Yes.
Okay, what are the qualifications of the people that are doing this assessment or screening?
It varies. We don't specify specific like educational qualifications in our contract. They do have to go through a series of trainings before they can work directly with individuals. And so there is a set of trainings that they have to go through and complete before they are able to do the screenings with individuals.
So we could have somebody come into that program that has a mental health problem that would never be able to maintain themselves in any kind of a home setting. And we don't have a professional way with somebody qualified to assess that at the beginning of the process. Is that what you're saying?
So it may not happen right then and there in the moment, but two of the agency, Family Health Center and Community House, also offer behavioral health services. And so in that situation, right, if someone comes in and they are in crisis and wouldn't be able to kind of complete the coordinated entry screening piece and may have other needs that are more pressing, they should be connecting them with mental health resources at that point. It'd be similar to, if somebody came into a food bank in crisis, those individuals probably aren't qualified, right, to do a mental health or behavioral health assessment or screening, but hopefully they're encouraging people to connect with the most appropriate resource for that.
The people that are tied to these assessments, the three that you've mentioned here in CAP, those four agencies, are they in any way reimbursed either by the county or another agency, depending on their head count in their program?
Based on head count?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. So there's three things I'm getting at. Number one, to send people that are in some level of crisis all over town from this agency to that agency is very inefficient, and you probably lose people on the way. The second thing is you're dealing with very serious problems that people have got. And several of us put together a white paper, which everybody in this room has seen. And one of the things that we were advocating and wanted to explore was a centralized intake process where you had qualified people. So everybody came to the same place. They were assessed by people with the right credentials, professionals, you know, not, you know, whatever all the rest of us would be, so that you got a proper assessment to begin with. And then we get those people then to the right agencies to begin with. And basically hand carry them there rather than just say, well, okay, you start here, now you got to go all the way over here to talk to this individual and then there and everywhere else. And I don't think from a overall efficiency and really helping the people we're trying to help, that's a very, very good way of doing it. So I'm raising the issue that we ought to be professional in that approach. And it needs to be centralized in one place. Now, I don't know if that's the county running that or, you know, how we do that. But this shotgun where everybody jumps in and says, well, I want to do that. I really don't think that's the way to go. And I think we need to take a real hard look at that.
Yeah.
And then we tie that together with the work that, you know, you guys are starting to do on the mental health thing. You know, I understand you want to start with the youth, you know, which is fine. But that doesn't do anything for all the other adults that have that problem, that are wandering from agency to agency and wasting not only their time, but wasting a lot of people's time and probably resources. So my thought is, we really need to take a look at that before we just add another, okay, well, now we're going to have another agency doing some assessments by a layman as opposed to somebody professionally trained to understand mental health, to understand drug addiction, and get them headed in the right direction to begin with, rather than, you know, kind of happenstance.
Yeah, and some of the history behind coordinated entry, we did have a centralized model several years ago and where we worked with just one agency, and there was sort of a hub created where individuals only went to that one location. We decided, as the county decided to shift away from that model and start working with multiple agencies. And, you know, for a lot of different reasons. And I think it has worked well for purposes of coordinated entry. I think maybe what you're getting at probably goes a little beyond the scope of coordinated entry. Because for coordinated entry, we're really just looking at, you know, getting some of that basic information so we can make a good referral to those housing programs. But if we're talking about doing behavioral health assessments and trying to get people connected to behavioral health services in that sense, I think that probably goes a little bit above the scope of coordinated entry specifically, but I certainly don't disagree with having a centralized way for people to connect.
So
Streamline.
of all the people that come into coordinated entry, how many of them would you say end up being referred for mental health on a percentage basis?
I'm not sure. I could go back and look at some of our data for that particular piece.
I'm happy with just a rough guess. Is it 50%?
I would probably say at least 50%. That, you know, and it's based off what individuals tell you, right? So it's, you know, we would only capture that if they're saying, I want to connect with mental health resources. And, you know, we as staff might have other thoughts about what they might need to connect, you know, the services that might be most appropriate, but it's based on what they share with you in the moment. But I would say there's certainly a lot of mental health and substance use issues, and they kind of go hand in hand for people that are connecting.
Okay.
My turn. Hey, so I've always been curious about this. It's been going on for a while. And the question I have is like, okay, so I'm homeless Joe, and I go to one of these coordination centers. They take some information from me, and then where do I go? I'm just back on the street, right? And then I've got my Obama phone, and then I wait for a phone call. Is that how it works? I mean, how many of these people just disappear before you can ever help them?
That does happen. That absolutely happens. What they should be getting information on shelter resources. So if you do come in and you're living on the street currently, you should be getting information and where Community House is, if you're fleeing violence, where ESS is. So you should be getting that information so you can go and try to, you know, get shelter that night if you can. We also encourage individuals to check back with coordinated entry every 90 days or so, just to stay updated on what your situation is, if it's changed, if it hasn't changed, that type of thing. But it does happen, people
Well,
float
what would
around.
be a rough number on the people that are calling you back after 90 days?
It's actually pretty high. It is. It surprises me a little bit, but they'll connect back in and we just update their information
Back on the street.
or they go and try to
Because
connect with shelter.
we obviously don't have housing for a lot of these people that are just generally homeless, right? I mean, like the people down at the gazebo, you know what I mean? Like the general population there, that doesn't have a house waiting for them somewhere or some sort of housing. So they come to the coordinated entry and you take their information, I just live on the street. I don't have any other problems, just homeless. So then you're just waiting on the street. I mean, it's just like, I've always been curious as how do you reconnect with somebody in that situation? I mean, how do you go find them? It's like, are you just sitting at the desk and all of a sudden a fax comes through and it's like, oh, we got a house for this guy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And how do you find them?
If their phone number, if they left a phone number, if their phone number doesn't work, we'll look in the state database, the Homeless Management Information System, because that will show us if they have gone into shelter or if they're staying in another project, if they happen to connect with one. So then we'll know they went somewhere. But we can also work with, like, Family Health Center has a homeless outreach team. And so we'll sometimes say, be able to connect with them. Hey, have you
Seen this guy, right?
Yeah, exactly. So there's a little bit of that might happen as well to try to track people down.
Okay, really quick. Now, you ran through some numbers in the beginning. I didn't quite catch the last one, the success rate number. It came out as a percentage.
Yes. And so when I talk about that number, it's not a success rate for coordinated entry. It's just a reflection of the openings in the housing projects. So that number was 10%. There's about 1,000 to 1,200 individuals that just make initial contact with coordinated entry. We do sort of the screening with about 800 of those. And then about 10%, give or take, end up with a housing referral, and that's in a year period.
Okay, so.
And again, that's not
80 people then.
That's not a
Is that right?
success of coordinated entry. That's just the housing openings.
Sure. So
that
that's
happen.
80, right? That would be the number.
Yeah.
10% of 800. 80, yeah. Thank you for that. I'm not very good at math on my toes like this.
Don't do math in public. Commissioner Weber always said that. Don't do math in public meetings.
Yeah, exactly. I remember him saying that. That's why I try not to do it. Thanks.
Let me pursue another connection then. So what is your relationship with the support services here with Camp Hope in Longview? They have 50 shelters. The Salvation Army is managing. Is that a completely separate, or is that incorporated into the process? Again, Longview will be coming to these commissioners and to us for money at mid-year or so to support their programs too.
Yeah, so Family Health Center goes down to Hope Village, I think once a week, to connect with individuals who maybe haven't connected with coordinated entry yet. And so their information is getting updated regularly. And then we also, because they also use HMIS, if we are looking for somebody who's up for a referral, we can check to see if they're at Hope Village, so we know where to find them for the referral.
So is that considered a success if you get them into Hope Village or if you get them beyond Hope Village?
So we don't get them into Hope Village. That is separate. Hope Village doesn't take referrals from coordinated entry in that sense. So there are not one of the required projects that only does referrals from coordinated entry. That's completely separate. But coordinated entry does connect with them as a project just to make sure that we're working, that the individuals staying there have connected with coordinated entry. And like I mentioned, if we end up pulling a referral and it's someone who's staying in Hope Village, we will be able to see that so we know where the individual is.
Okay, so there's some interrelationship, but, okay, thank you.
Gina, I just want to say, I'm amazed at how much you know about all of this and your wealth of knowledge. Thank you. It really is. It's amazing to see. So there definitely is some sort of common template or intake form, if you will, with these organizations that
Mhm.
we're giving this money to.
Mhm.
They all use the same one?
Yep, yep.
Okay. And then these organizations that they're referring to have access to that information. So it really is somewhat coordinated. It's not just, they didn't just name it that.
Right, yeah, and we play a role in it as well. So these three agencies are connecting directly with individuals. When they enter that data in the system, we see that as soon as it's entered in. And when there's an opening, a housing opening, we're the ones that are contacted at HHS, where the agencies will say, hey, HHS, we need 2 referrals, we have openings, and we'll go through the system and identify the individual for the referral. But the other agencies can see that as well. So when like I mentioned, if someone, goes to community house and then they go to Family Health Center would say, hey, you just connected with coordinated entry and just did all this. Did you need to update your information or did something change? And, they'll do that, but they won't go through the whole thing again. Yeah.
How do you prioritize who you're gonna call? Are they first come, first served always, or is it a judgment call?
So the way it works, there's the questions that are asked are 2-part. One, as I mentioned, are specific to the housing projects. And so, are you a veteran? What's your income level? So there's certain pieces that are requirements for the housing projects we refer to. We also look at a couple other things, like if there's children in the family, that gets in the system, it's scored. And so we're able to sort and filter based on the housing project and what their requirements are. And then we look at other factors like number of children in the home. Is there age? Is there medical issues going on? So there's some of those pieces that are considered as well.
Okay, thank you.
First off, I want to commend you for all the hassle that you go through to get these people housed and taken care of, because I know it's extensive. But going through the figures, there's a whole lot of people that don't meet the requirements, but yet they're really in hard times. And they're not going to go to Hope Village, or they're not going to go to community, because they aren't going to quite make that either. They're on the cusp of being eligible for those. What can we do for them, and what do we have for them?
Well, it's hard. And when we talk about those numbers, there's a lot of programs out there that aren't reflected in those numbers, right? So there's a lot of projects that are completely outside of this process, like Oxford Housing, or there's all kinds of other programs.
Okay.
And so individuals may be connecting with those programs, and, we wouldn't know that necessarily. We just know who connects with coordinated entry and if we end up referring them to one of these specific projects. But there are a lot of individuals out there that may not qualify for a project or may not be ready to go into a project that has certain parameters, right? If they're not ready to follow certain rules or what have you, then they wouldn't meet that eligibility for those projects. And so I think that's probably what you're getting at, is there's a population that may not be able to be served in that sense, or might be better off being connected to mental health or behavioral health, or we hope that they might be ready to commit to something different. But
all I know is that when you mention all the figures that you've mentioned, and I see a lot of people right now, because we are having financial economic problems, and they're just right on the cusp of
Mhm.
not, just
Mhm.
not making it.
Mhm.
And I know we have a lot of churches and things that are, they're trying very hard to meet those needs as well. But I wasn't aware of the other programs that are for the people that are not quite there, but just one step above, but any day they could be down. But
Mhm.
they just need I guess guidance is the word, education on how to improve their living condition. And maybe Mr. Wood, maybe his
Mm.
ability to have the $600 a month housing would be great, because
Mhm.
I think there's a real need for that. I mean, like I say, they're one step above. They're not going to make what but they're still in
Mhm.
dire need. But thank you. I didn't realize
Mhm.
that there were other programs as well.
Mhm. Yeah.
Flo, I think to your comment about that, I can speak to the fact that there are, for those particular individuals, there are a lot of churches within our community that help those particular people that don't fit into this, into the mold for the qualifications for these programs. And I would really say that, to me personally, I really believe that that's where the responsibility lies within our community. I don't know that I don't know to what extent it's the government's role to fund all of these different programs that we've got going on. But I can tell you that I feel that we can work with those churches within our community to help them, maybe not necessarily with money, but with other resources and services, where to go to and coordinate with other people. That's one of the areas that I see, because I've worked with that for the last 4.5 years now, um, with helping people in that situation. And one of the things that we do when I help somebody with rent, or when I help them with a deposit on their apartment, is I don't just give it to them because I want them to have a sense of dignity as a human being, to say, hey, I didn't just this, I'm not a charity case, but I need help. I give them the opportunity to come and clean the parking lot, come and clean the church, to provide service for the endowment that they're receiving, if you will. And that's one of the things I'd like to see more of in our community, not just churches handing stuff out, but actually maybe requiring something of these people that are getting some of these services for their own self-dignity, to help them get back on their feet, to feel good about, the situation that they're in, because everybody falls on hard times. I'm not saying that we shouldn't help people out, but I think we need to identify the role that we play as a government, what we want to do, and also to help the churches and the charity organizations within our communities to fulfill that role.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to step in a little bit because we're starting to get beyond the scope of coordinated
sorry.
entry here.
Yeah.
This is a great discussion. If you want to have it in public meeting, I'm more than happy to do that, but we're on task here a little bit. So I'll take a little chairman prerogative and get us back onto that. You have something on the coordinated entry?
Yes, I want to hammer away on the professionalism required, and kind of an example that I think that we've all forgotten. And my intent is not to find fault with any individual, because everybody that's involved in this homeless thing is doing everything they know how to do in this community. So it doesn't come around to picking on anybody or any entity. I want to go back to the transition from Camp Alabama version 1 to Camp Alabama version 2, which is called Hope Village. And for those of us that have physically walked through Camp Alabama version 1 and saw the people and the conditions and the mental, the drug addiction, I mean, the terrible conditions that those people were in. And we had a layman, the city of Longview had a layman do an assessment. I think there was 110 people, if I remember the number right. And after that, a layman's assessment, 100% of those people became eligible for Camp Alabama version 2. And what Camp Alabama version 2 was going to do was not even defined. So there was no, if we had a trained professional doing those assessments, we would have separated out or identified the ones that needed mental help, the ones that needed drug addiction, the ones that were ready to go to Camp Alabama version 2, whatever the function of that was going to be. But we see we never had that. And so we ended up with this big mixture and a lot of wasted time and money in Camp El Enviado version 2. And I'm assuming they've worked their way through that by now. But that's the importance to me of having professional, single space, single place where everybody comes together. And I even think about today, if a police officer, he's out there, comes across somebody on the street that he obviously has to do something with, and he doesn't have a behavioral specialist along with him, how does he know what to do? Take him to jail, take him to St. John's, take him to, I don't know. But if there was a centralized place where they had somebody professionally could make an assessment and a judgment on those people, we could save a lot of time and be more efficient and, more importantly, help the individual that needs the help. So I'm an advocate for professionalizing this whole operation as opposed to laymen or volunteers or whatever.
One additional quick question on coordinated entry. When you interview them, does that also include asking them what resources they do have? I know there's there's disability, there's SSI, there's food, so there's resources that some of them or many of them already have.
Yes, they do ask about resources. They also ask about things like, do you have friends or family you could stay, they have those types of conversations to look at what natural supports they might have in the community as well.
Okay, so you can breach that discussion.
We did have one comment come in. It's more directed to where the conversation was going, which we can pick back up again. I have no issue with that. Anonymous attendee, it would be really great if there was a place that had housing and services in the same campus. I've seen such programs on documentaries. One in Phoenix is faith-based. They say low-income housing would help, except low income isn't low dollars. So. Any other questions on these? If it's the pleasure of this board and you want to take all three, I think that's acceptable.
Okay, I was going to ask you that question. I'll make a motion to approve all three items, 13, 14, and 15.
Okay, we have a motion to approve items 13 to community house, 14 to emergency support shelter, and 15 to family health center. Last questions? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Gina. And I'll say this, I've said it before, but I'll say it again because I think it's important. This is the only place that you'll have an opportunity to sit and have these discussions with our department heads. I don't have a problem with it because it just shows you how much our department heads know and how knowledgeable and capable they are. So we're not going to let it turn into a yell fest, but I think discussions with them is important. And I think this commission is in favor of that. And so we always appreciate like a Gina or Susan or whoever is sitting up here, sitting and taking those questions and answering for you. They're much more knowledgeable about it than the three of us. So thank you.
Yep, happy to do it.
I see Mr. Kaiser in the back, so I'm gonna give you a number, 1.7 million. That was the engineer's estimate. I gave it last week, but you weren't here. Okay.
So for that bridge we're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, you had asked about that, so we got that for you.
Thank
you. Next Tuesday, we have Board of Health. Next Wednesday on the 26th, you'll see the Public Facilities District will be in and going over the master plan they have for the Expo Center. I think you'd find that pretty interesting. In April, we have a lineup. April, we have rural public facilities money that comes in because we're considered a rural county. It's a tax rebate from a state tax that we get back to the county, and we can use it for, we like to see it used for infrastructure type projects. We did in like the water main extension and sewer extension in Castle Rock, we did that. We did, the water plant in Kalama in improvements to that. So you'll see some of those projects come in. If you have interest, that would be one to attend. We asked for it, and on April 23rd, we're gonna have Department of Fish and Wildlife in, because we had some questions on that. And in the following week, right after Fish and Wildlife, Ecology will be back. So, you guys have any updates? All good? Okay, we'll open it up. It's your meeting.
A quick follow-up on item number 11, where we were providing funds for Southwest Washington services at the Phoenix House. One of the other points I want to make is that a couple of years ago, the Housing Authority came in and sought funds and received well over $100,000 to rehab the Phoenix House because it was only 7 years old. So that was kind of mind-boggling that it was at that state already. So I'm hoping, and I didn't bring it up at the session, but when you go in and provide services to people, it not only includes the personal, but it includes the environment and a sense of taking care of what you have and what we have provided them in society. So.
All right, I got something that's real dull. Get ready to take a nap. So last, I think it was Wednesday, we were talking about the admin building over there, need new windows. You know, it's kind of funny because I walk by there all the time and never even looked at them, but it's like the whole building needs all new windows. And like we were talking about, or like you were talking about on Wednesday, you know, you're upgrading that building. It's going to cost some money, but man, dang, I was really shocked at when I went and looked at the other side, how it's, I don't know if you guys have been over there to look at that from the outside, but it's like the bottom floor, there's just a wall out there, you know, with like a little sidewalk, and it's kind of a trench.
Are you talking about like
The far side from here.
the parking lot between WSU and?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It just looks like kind of a miserable little spot, and I feel bad for our lawyers having to have their offices down there and have to look out at that, you know, I mean, I feel bad for those legal guys and all their education and stuff, and get an office like that, it makes me feel bad for those guys. But another point that I was curious about, and it's minor, what happened to the weed control board? Are they in there? Because the building looks empty now, right?
Weed control has been
Downstairs.
relocated over here downstairs.
Oh, okay. I'm just curious about that one too.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we put a lot of money into it and more to go, I guess, but I'm always gonna feel bad thinking about lawyers having to look at that wall.
Most of their office is going to be on second floor, but I can't swear to that.
They want windows.
Yeah.
Well, it needs it there. The windows are bad all the way around.
Yeah.
Hey there, commissioners. My name's Kerry Hargan, and I've been, well, actually born right over here on the river. I was a Boy Scout on the Two River Valley up there, and grew up in a sea log truck in Mount St. Helens Forest. And here on January 27th, there's been actual ongoing, we own Elk Run, Mount St. Helens Retreat on the 2500. And recently, during hunting season on, there's been speeders coming through, log trucks passing our residents there. It's a residential, private residential, which makes a difference on easement and the speed that the trucks can travel through. And my neighbor's been telling me that they've been speeding, passing them, and creating dangerous conditions. So I started putting up signs. Well, the other day, I walked probably 20 floors to get from my cabin up to the 2500, and one of CNC trucks come flying through where I couldn't even see that wall because of the dust, which is they're obligated to keep down. And The next truck come through, I started doing this. He acted like he was going to go on by me, then aimed his semi log truck right at me and chased me on my own property out into the grass. And when I called the sheriff department about it, the sheriff, when he contacted me, the first thing he did, "Do you own a silver Tahoe? Do you own a red truck?" He was bullying me from the start. And I do understand why he has asked about the red truck, because one of the neighbors has been stopping these trucks speeding and chewing their butts. And Weyerhaeuser been called from a nurse from St. John's. They've called the heads of Weyerhaeuser. They've told me one of the professors from LCC's been passed, and he stopped one of the trucks, and one of the truck drivers went to fly out to like they're gonna fight, ended up on his face. So I started putting up these signs. Well, then I put up signs back in hunting season too, and they were stolen. And I've been putting 4x4 signs, 15 miles an hour, no dust, which the reason why I did that is because I could travel through there at 15 without putting dust clear to the ceiling heights, which that's what was going on. So now, after the sheriff came and told me that the truck drivers told him that you don't own this property and you better just stay out of the way before you get ran over. Well, after hearing a semi committing a felony against me, then an officer just blowing me off, I ended up in the hospital with 133 beats a minute the next 2 days after that, because I was waking up not being able to sleep, stressing out over this matter. And just yesterday, my neighbors and I have been quite interested in all the chatter the day after that guy tried to run me over. The scoop on the radio, they don't own that. You go ahead and do what you want, basically. Well, yesterday, now I know which, I don't know his name, but I know it's one of the Weyerhaeuser's equipment operators been flying through in the morning. He's been stating that, oh, that guy up there, he's got a gun. This was yesterday. He's been packing a gun, and if I see him out there, I'm going to run him over. And that's the reason why I'm here today. I'm being bullied by Weyerhaeuser. It's come to me feeling that Weyerhaeuser married with the state and the sheriff department to the point where I feel it's a national security risk the way things are going. Weyerhaeuser's, I've been told by a lot of people that they ain't doing nothing against Weyerhaeuser because they're too big. And I'm just totally disgusted with it. And if I seemed upset, if you had someone try to run over you with a log truck, then get that kind of attitude from a sheriff, you wouldn't be very happy either. And that's, I don't know, that's where I'm at right now. I've put up signs in Weyerhaeuser the other day. One of them, we could tell the sounds of the different vehicles when they stopped, stole some of my signs and went right into Weyerhaeuser. Well, there's a fresh skiff of snow. If they halfway cared, they could have went up and found what was stolen from us. And they're spreading lies that I'm vandalizing things, which I haven't been on Weyerhaeuser at all. They're making up and having that truck driver or one of their operators spreading rumors that I'm packing a gun and I'm going to run him over. That's just emboldening them even more. And Weyerhaeuser's not doing a thing. Matter of fact, they were talking about on the radio too about setting up cameras. I wish they would, because then we could catch the vandals, Weyerhaeuser's vandals that are stealing my signs. And I've tried, my neighbors have tried, and this is a residential area. Out of their whole 50 miles, they only less than 1 mile they got to slow down to protect our investments. The dust is so bad, and they do put gray stuff during the summer, but during these different spells, they don't do a thing. And you try to call them and ask them, and They won't do, the matter of fact, they got real rude with me. So the deputy says, go ahead and keep documenting it with us, but they don't even give me, I don't have a case number for what I consider a felony. But I was just told one gentleman got 20 years, another one got 8 years for using a commercial vehicle to threaten someone's life. So what the sheriff department, and I know I got stepsons that haven't helped my situation any, but the sheriff department actually had problems with them, but it wasn't me. I don't have nothing to do with that. And the way I've been treated has been bullying from the sheriff department and Weyerhaeuser. And I'd like to see Weyerhaeuser and them investigated. And the deputy Souvenir, he stated, oh yeah, I know the forest manager that told me they were gonna take care of this. And what's on the radio, they ain't taking care of it. They're setting up cameras and gonna bust this guy. And like I was telling you, now they're talking about running me over on my own property. I was on my own property when that truck did it. That was my easement. I can show you the maps. I got all of it clear back to 45 when Weyerhaeuser got an easement through Cheney's property. Weyerhaeuser never owned this property. It's been from Cheney to Tacoma Land Company to Mount St. Helens Elk Run Retreat, and it's never been theirs. They've just had an easement through. And they're bullying all of our landowners up there, other than the Weyerhaeuser union rep that's lived up there. He's the only one that hasn't stopped, talked, or said anything. But there's been a nurse, college professor, and all of them complaining to him about it, and nothing's been done other than me being harassed. I'm the big bully on the hill now, I was voted in during the Elk Run Mount St. Helens retreats. I was, for obvious reasons, voted in as security. So basically, I was trying to do my job when this happened. But I've had 3 stints put in the last couple of years, so I've been trying to keep stress down.
Couple questions. Elk Run Retreat owns the road?
Yeah, each one of us owns part of Elk Run. We own to the center of the road. Each landowner owns a portion of it, and there's 4 or 5 of them telling me that we need to do something. And we've tried talking to Weyerhaeuser, so I've been doing signage. And now it's all over their CBs how terrible that guy is. And
Did I hear you say, maybe I didn't hear it right, that did they agree to a speed limit there? Is there?
oh,
an
well,
agreement?
there was 10-mile-an-hour speed signs. When there's signs from when Mark Smith and you've done the development of Elk Run, Mount St. Helens Retreat, there was still signs that stated right at the beginning of the road and up at the gate, it's less than a mile, residential, and it had 10 miles an hour on it before. That was a Weyerhaeuser sign. That was 10 miles an hour they posted before they started stealing them. And I put up a couple down there during hunting season, and Weyerhaeuser don't allow hunters to be coming using that easement because it's our private properties. So we've been turning them around, and they're upset about that. They don't have to go all the way out 19 or up the 3100. So we've been stopping them doing that, but none of us done nothing to them other than tell them turn around and this ain't your access. So they're upset with us, but it's our rights. And any one of our landowners do have the right to stop one of those guys and tell them to behave. We had some of the hunters going through there 45, and it's a steep grade. And some of those log trucks, they weren't stopping. they had to pass the guy because they're going too fast.
We're talking, and this is a 1 mile stretch of road?
Less than a mile, yeah. So out of their 50 miles, we're asking them, and it could have been 10 miles, but when I drove up through in the dust the other day, 15 miles an hour didn't kick it clear up in the air. So that's the reason why I added 15 miles an hour. And now I'm the big bad boy in the,
Yeah. Do they put any, I have a place in Idaho and where there's logging activity and it's around residential, and I don't know what they put on the road, but they put on the road to control the dust. Do they do any of that up
they
there?
do that during the summer, but when it washes off in the winter and you get 2 weeks of dry weather, they don't slow down. They're doing 35. We can do 35. Where else is 30? This is residential. I keep telling them, residential. And if it's private residential, they got to work with the landowners, from what I understand in the Washington State DOT laws. They just can't go blowing through someone's private residential, but Seaman Warehouse's been doing it for all these years. They feel butthurt to have to slow down just for us. And if they would have stayed slow during the dust, we wouldn't have been doing anything. We didn't bother them while it was, but it got so bad, and the landowners there are just getting dusted out continuously. And there's 5 of them that's griped to me about it.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is.
And,
the
and
dust
down
is
at
your-
the,
Dust is your major issue?
that was part, and speed,
Yeah.
and illegal use of the easement. The Weyerhaeuser hunters don't supposed to be there. The public don't supposed to be using it because it's private. There's even signs saying trespassing if you enter on their signs.
How is it hunters are accessing this property without a gate key?
What?
Is there a gate?
Weyerhaeuser got a gate above us, which we were talking, we are by that, we could have a landowners meeting and set up a gate and all of that if we decided to as our private entity.
So does Weyerhaeuser have an access gate
Do they?
past your property?
They have a lock gate past our property.
But is it an access gate for hunters?
No, there's signs saying no access for hunters.
So hunters are just going through your property, and how are they getting into Weyerhaeuser if there's no access gate?
Some of them have keys, and some of them, they're just Weyerhaeusers leaving the gate wide open. The workers go and leaving them up, and they're taking advantage of it. One of them came so fast through a couple of times. He was doing 40, 45 just to keep from us. Hey, stop, he just flying. And we finally caught up to him on the 19 mile. One of my neighbors and I followed him down to the 19 mile and told him he's trespassed off from it. And I'd appreciate that CNC truck. I'd like to find out, I told that Weyerhaeuser forest manager, Albert Kessel, that I wanted that CNC truck trespassed off from our portion of the 2,500 for trying to run me over. And I'd like to know if that's been done. They've been dragging their feet all along. And everybody says there's cameras on those trucks. Everybody except for the cop said, oh, well, there was no camera. And both of the drivers that got the same year truck says our cameras don't lie. So that officer hasn't gave me a straight deal, or Weyerhaeuser. They with that driver or one of their workers sitting there telling, I'm going to run him over. That's making it twice as dangerous.
Do you know what the name-
Emboldening other people to act against me, in my opinion.
Do you know what the name of the sheriff was you talked to?
That was Souvenir,
Souvenir? Okay.
Officer Souvenir. That's all these told me.
And then, did you say you talked to this forest manager?
Yeah, he caught me. Are you patrolling? Yeah, I'm patrolling. I ended up putting Elk Run security on my truck because I was basically the one that everybody calls for security up there. There's an old man, one of the neighbors were harassing on top. Who do they call? Me, to get him out of there. And every time one of the neighbors leave, they call me and ask me to make sure their place is secure. And I've been doing it for 20 years up there. But we haven't really had to do much until these guys are just starting to endanger them and getting emboldened for, I don't know why. Why has it gotten so bad in the last year? And I'm just trying to help my neighbors and me protect our easement. And I
Okay,
don't like being put in fear of my life.
yeah. What we basically have available here is we don't really have authority over other elected officials, so we can't tell sheriffs or we don't tell the auditors or assessors how to do their job. What we can do is express concerns of the public, and some of that, just that expression of concern will carry some weight. I don't know what we can do with Weyerhaeuser, but
Yeah, everybody says Weyerhaeuser's too big to go against.
yeah.
That seems to be, ought to be investigated as a national security risk.
Yeah. It's a little distressing that they're talking about less than a mile of road. You'd think they'd honor a speed limit and just do it, but
Well, I can tell you that Weyerhaeuser's Wood Security makes sure that as a permit holder, you're enforcing their rules on their land.
What's that?
I said, I can tell you that the Weyerhaeuser Wood Security, as they're patrolling up there for the permit holders that are, have access to their land, they make sure that we're upholding our end of that contract, that we're obeying the speed limit and have the equipment we're supposed to have. So they should understand.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You have a lot different experience with Weyerhaeuser security than I've had. I don't have much faith in Weyerhaeuser security.
Well, no, I'm just saying that they expect everybody else to abide by the rules.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I'm
actually,
telling
I
you,
got one of Weyerhaeuser's, Five Alive things right here. What they're producing for their safety. That's, where is it? Right here. And they got 25 miles an hour on their road is what they're telling their guys. If you'd like to see it.
or like the log truck drivers and stuff.
Oh, for their hunters and all that.
I got you.
Permit holders.
Oh, okay,
25.
I got you. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, it's right here. Travel 25 mile an hour or less on the right of ways operating traffic. And I had a gentleman go through quite a bit of information after the sheriff said, you don't own that land and you can't do this. I got everything back to 45. It took me a while. We had to go clear to the archives in Olympia to get some of this paperwork, but there's no denying Weyerhaeuser never owned that piece of property. They have an easement through, but they need to obey the private, now that it's a residential area, they need to abide by it.
well, I guess I don't know if the sheriff won't help you. I guess I don't
Well,
know.
that's what everybody says. They're so worthless anymore. They don't help anybody. And that's what the word I get. And that's just about everybody I've talked to. Oh, they don't do a damn thing anymore. Period.
Pardon my ignorance when it comes to easements. Rick, maybe you know the answer to this. Are easements indefinite? Can you cancel an easement on somebody?
Not if you lock them out of their property.
It's,
It's illegal to landlock.
they wouldn't be landlocked. They talked about, when I was talking about going, well, if we can't fix it, we'll go out 19 mile. But yeah, it was the easement I read was without time assessment, but if there's abuse of the easement, there, and it was stating that it's harder to keep that easement throughout time because of abuse of the easement and stuff like that. And warehouses, in my opinions, made it a dangerous condition on the 2,500 by their rhetoric and not refusing to talk to their contractors. The contractors are sitting there today and too, oh, they don't own that property. Well, the timber manager says he's gonna handle it, and instead I'm here and they're setting up cameras and we're gonna bust that guy, and now this another one's gonna run me over. I've been listening to CB. I haven't been talking to her or saying a thing because I need to be recording this for evidence for the harassment and bullying that I'm getting from Weyerhaeuser.
Have you talked to an attorney at all?
I tried one in Seattle, but yeah, I don't want to go against Weyerhaeuser.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I would guess that if Weyerhaeuser had another out, you could probably do a civil action and get rid of that easement, like the easement I have that started with IP and now Sierra Pacific owns it. I don't think they could cancel because it's my only access to my property.
And you look straight across the street from what I'm talking about is Eco Park. Well, Eco Park's got the same easement through there. He's got a 5-mile-an-hour sign, and you open and close the gate every time you go down through there. And it's the same easement going to Old Camp Baker. That's what that was, reason why they built the road through Cheney's property is to get down to Camp Baker back in the 40s, 50s.
Okay.
But it's just amazing me how the sheriff department treated me, though. That was just, they did ignorant to the law to start with and making judgment from the truck drivers. And yeah, I was upset when the second one come through. I'm sure I was, yeah, you're gonna tell that truck driver not to come back through here because he's trespassed. And I have the right to trespass speeders or wreck. Someone try to run you over, you should be able to trespass them off your private property. And easement through there.
Yeah, well,
And we all, as landowners up there, because of the covenants, it stated any one of us can take action in whatever needs to be taken care of up there. And that's all I try to do. And they're up there making lies about me, telling them I'm packing guns. Well, this is the way I looked when I just about got ran over. And if I would have tripped, I would have been ran over, period. And I'm retired. I've ended up in Germany serving by the time I was 17. I've been outgoing. I planted Fawn Lake Burn up there in Mount St. Helens back when I was 14. I've been an avid working. I grew up in a log truck. I ran that 2,500 ever since I was this tall. I witnessed them spraying Agent Orange all over the logging roads, which I have making me wonder about the elk. Because Vietnam, they sprayed Agent Orange over there, and I'm being told that they got to clean up the DDT and they're the dioxin or whatever it is that kills the plants there. They were, when I was 6 or 7, and I was sitting in my dad's log truck watching them, 2 guys on the back of a great big water tanker. I don't even think they had masks, spraying that Agent Orange up and down. It was on the 1901 when I seen them doing it. And all they say, oh, we haven't done that lately, but all of our grouse died off at that time, and yeah, and I'm a little disgusted.
What I would ask you is make sure our clerk has your information. We'll do a little research and see what kind of suggestions we can come up with and try to help, although I think we're, to be honest with you, to be totally honest with you, is pretty limited at what we can do, but we will take a look at it and try to help if we can.
I appreciate it.
Just, make sure our clerk has contact information so we know how to get back to you.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for coming
you.
by.
Thank you.
Where would I, out?
In the office?
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Have a good day.
You too.
Too.
Anything else today?
Not on my list.
No.
As always, there's only 3 of you left, but we appreciate you participating. We always, enjoy the public discourse. I think it's good for us. So